a short test after the last presentation, and we will be nitpicking on very minute details that we will show in those presentations. Luckily, they are all recorded, so you can always go back and watch them again if you haven't grasped the whole concept and all the details. No, I mean that's a lot of content we throw at you, and it's usually something that you fully understand after you've been 5 years with a company. So don't even try to think that you need to understand everything. And I'm trying to bring across just 1 or 2 concepts of what AIOps means to me in that presentation. Maybe I'm finished after 20 minutes, maybe after 50 minutes, maybe after 30 minutes. That depends on my mood of talking and on like the feedback that I get, and if I see tired faces, if I see no faces at all. Let's see. But let's start with the AIOps definition. So this is something that Gartner came about, like, what is it here, 2017? And I'm not even sure if they coined the term AIOps for AI back then. That term has been around for a longer time period. And somebody is still eating cereal without being muted. And we don't want to capture the chewing on record. I'm just making some warning. So AIOps started out as algorithmic IT operations. And then this AI thing took off, and people thought, man, probably this is artificial intelligence and machine learning, and we can capture some more money with recoining the term. So nowadays it's for artificial intelligence operations, and AIOps platforms are software systems that combine big data and AI or machine learning functionality to enhance and partially replace a broad range of IT operations, processes, and tasks, including availability and performance monitoring, event correlation and analysis, IT service management, and automation. That's a whole lot of words. You could read into it. AI will replace IT operations. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows, right? It's a first and foremost AIOps. It's a buzzword, like it was like 20 years ago with clouds. Everybody needs to move to the cloud. Where's the cloud? Oh, it's up in the sky. Oh, can I touch a cloud? No, you can't touch a cloud. So everybody comes up with a different definition of AIOps, and I think it's the same today. This is another statement from Gartner. By 2022, and that's, I think, a year from now, 40% of all large enterprises will combine big data and machine learning functionality to support and partially replace monitoring, service desk, and automation processes and tasks, which is another great selling point for everybody to jump the AIOps bandwagon, because just a year from now, 40% of my work staff will be replaced by all those bots, and I will spend 40% less money on my IT staff, right? And then I can finally tackle deflation or inflation. I don't know. So it's a lot of words being thrown at you. But I think the essence here is first, it's not the essence, but here's the first key takeaway for you guys. AIOps and MLOps is not the same. So we are dealing really with how can we use AI to support IT operations. And IT operations is this whole huge concept of what we do to operate stuff in IT. It's not the same as MLOps, which you will also see a lot in this group and in these talks. That's how we operate machine learning workloads. So if you see a model being deployed somewhere, it's MLOps. If you see AI helping IT in general, it's AIOps, which can be a subtle difference because AI and ML is being used interchangeably, although they mean different things, but people are throwing stuff in one bucket. So AI and ML, it's AI/ML, yada, yada, yada. So, but AIOps and MLOps are not fundamentally different things, but because you also want to use AI to operate your machine learning workloads in the end. So it might be just a niche aspect of operating stuff for MLOps, but AIOps in general is how do I use machine learning or AI or advanced statistics to make life of an operator of the IT professional easier. And I also don't think it's a product, although companies are slapping this term AIOps on their products and say, okay, buy my AIOps product and you will get that 40% reduction, yada, yada, yada. I think it's the natural evolution of what we saw with DevOps. So if you would ask me, and nowadays, hopefully most of the folks that are doing DevOps are working, or that are working in the IT industry and are practicing DevOps, what DevOps means is the cultural adoption of dev tools in the operational domain and ops tools in the dev domain. So a developer can nowadays use containers and just with one command spin up a whole environment in, I don't know, in your favorite cloud provider or on Openshift and create a large setup of systems. Usually back in the days, that took you 5 days of procurement and filling out forms and stuff until you even got one virtual machine. Nowadays, it's just at the hand of the developer to spin up the operational tasks that previously took a long time. Same for ops folks now using GitOps, and yeah, like scripting, more advanced scripting bots to operate more in a programmatic fashion and codify a lot of the chores and manual tasks that they have been doing previously manually while staring at dashboards and then fixing that bug because some gauge was turning red. Nowadays it's bots and it's all integrated in code. So you will have people that use dev tools in operations. And that's DevOps. An incarnation of that would be the site reliability engineer who's living, the SRE persona who's living DevOps. In the end, it's an IT professional who's doing their work of coding or operating stuff and using the whole set of tooling available to the IT professional. And that is changing nowadays with another domain coming to that toolbox. That's the tools of the data scientists, of the machine learner or the machine learning folks, of the data engineer, of the AI folks. So you will not only just use the coding stuff and the operational stuff, but you also will use data science and analytics to analyze the stuff that you're doing. And I think that's the most pure definition of AIOps, right? So whenever you see something that is done at scale, either because you're operating a lot of stuff, because you have Pokemon Go servers spinning up and down, so it's just a massive amount of data, or I think it's if you have a massive amount of data, then probably AI can help you. And here's another example to make it more feasible and understandable what it means, because everybody knows autonomous driving, autonomous vehicles these days. And you would start off with assisted AI, that's assisted driving. So if you are old enough to drive a car, you might have that lane indicator in your rear view mirror that there's a car behind you, so you better not change lanes yet. That's assisted driving. The car is just assisting you in making decisions. In an AIOps context, that might be an assisted warning. Oh, look, there's this this graph of hardware capacity, of hard drive capacity, and you might run out of capacity, out of storage in your hard drive in a day or so. You still have to act yourself. Augmented AI would be the lane keeping assistant, right? So you, instead of just taking over, you have that visual and that tactical feel, but also you can take momentarily the hands off your wheel and the car will keep the lane for you. in our data center example, it's not just you watching that gauge that your hard drive will fill up in some time, but there might be some tool, some bot kicking in and actually extending that hard drive. So that's one thing less to worry about. Until we actually come to that autonomous driving, and you see how hard that is by all these major companies making claims that we will have autonomous driving and all the truck drivers being replaced by maybe 2020 or something. It's actually harder than that because the real world is much more complex. And same for the self-driving cluster, that until we get to that situation where like 40% of your workforce is being replaced by autonomous AI running stuff in your data center, where you just install something and you can focus on more interesting stuff like watching people playing Minecraft on YouTube. That's still some time to come, but that would be autonomous AI, right? So looking at those, only 15 minutes left, so I better speed up. So if we look at those features in AIOps products, they are all recurring, and I think they should. You should have an intuition what they are doing. So baselining would be, I look at my gauges and my graphs and I extract the baseline. Like I have 80% utilization of my CPU. That's the baseline I can extract. Then if I jump down here to anomaly detection, if I get a spike in that baseline, like it's going up to 100%, that might be an anomaly, and I can detect that anomaly in that spike automatically, and I can be alerted on that anomaly instead of writing something, an alert manually. Maybe this alert is correlated with something else, right? So you have that spike in CPU and it's going up because your users, you haven't exceeded amount of users hitting your cluster. Maybe that's because that's the reason why your CPUs are going up. So having that correlation with other metrics is super useful in order to do root cause analysis here, right? So it's nice if you have that anomaly being detected, but why is it happening? In the end, you are using tools to get your job done better and faster. And I think the ultimate thing that they want you to do is find the root cause for why your stuff is not working. And then simulation, looking into the future, going back to that hard drive that's running out of capacity. Let's simulate where we're at in a week, in a month from now. Do we need to purchase more hardware because we're on a steady growth of users and hard drives because people are uploading themselves playing Minecraft on your hard drives? So it's a continuous cycle. Maybe it's a vicious cycle, I don't know. But you will start collecting all your data. You want to visualize your data. You want to find patterns in your data. Then you want to understand your data. And then you want to predict the future in order to do root cause analysis and ultimately fix your stuff. That's in one slide, in a bunch of words, AIOps. And that's where all those machine learning and data science tools can help you. It's not a product that you install, but it's a new set of tools, a new set of culture, a new set of behaviors, and a new way of thinking. This data-driven mindset, that's what you need to incorporate, and that's what you would do if you're doing AIOps. And you can, if somebody's just looking at how can I visualize big data sets in a dashboard or in a Jupyter notebook or in something, that's AIOps, right? It's not using fancy tools and purchasing random manufacturer, random supplier, a vendor AIOps tooling. It's using actually these tools. And I think that's also how we apply the idea of AIOps here at Red Hat, and more so in our AI Center of Excellence. Center of Excellence, it's a fancy term for a overlay team, a team that tries to educate other folks on getting better at a certain skill set. And the skill set is, how do I work with data? So we're doing proof of concepts, POCs, within our own group. Christoph will talk about Thoth. He's doing a lot of AI stuff, and we are using his stuff, and we are giving back some, or we are helping him in some other regards. So it's, in the end, it's working with data. This data hub thing that you saw yesterday, that's something everything centers around. So everything we do is on top of data hub, and we're also doing some POCs in that data hub environment. Working with internal teams like Openshift, Ceph, storage, Red Hat IT. So whenever you have an experiment and you can sell that, or you can prove that with an internal customer, an internal team, even better, right? But there's a lot of convincing and a lot of talking in there, and you will realize that only a very small portion of that it has actually to do with AI or machine learning, and it's more like convincing folks and talking to folks. And the ultimate goal would be obviously to land some feature in a product, and the product that Red Hat has that would be a product where we could slap a term AIOps on would be Red Hat Insights, but it can also land in Openshift. So it might be, there might be some feature in one of the core products which is still AIOps-ish, but isn't marketed as an AIOps tool. And then as the foundation down here, it's creating open data sets, right? So we want to have more free data to let loose on data scientists and the other way around, so that they must not only watch people watching playing Minecraft, but maybe they can also watch clusters failing, hard drives failing, and try to recover that, which might also be fun. But I admit Minecraft might be more fun. Data Hub. So that's yesterday. That's this whole workflow from storage, Jupyter stuff, TensorFlow, Kubeflow, OpenShift, Seldon for serving, Prometheus, Grafana for visualizing metrics, etc., etc. We try to focus around this thing, and I come back to that slide later, but it's just the proof of concept. What we're doing here could be applied to any other product, any other project, because in the end, it's always the same, right? It's this cycle: collect data, understand data, predict, and do something about it. But we're trying to do that at the Open Data Hub as an example, in order to prove that we can do AIOps and actually make the world a little bit better. But how? So here are some examples of what we actually did there. So there was a lot of theory. Here are just some old examples, and they are from the previous slides, but they are still valuable lessons. So although those links here might lead to stale projects and dead projects, that's just because we moved on to the next incarnation of that. I consider every failed project or every project that went silent also valuable in sharing, because ultimately you learned and you grew your capabilities. And we grew the capability of working with Prometheus data, which is the de facto standard of gathering metrics in the ops domain. And we built some dashboards around it. We were able to alert on anomalies by predicting those time series, and then aggregating scores so that we could alert actually whether this red line here is leaving a certain, a certain window of prediction. I don't even know whether that's the predicted value or something else. I think that's two models here. Yeah, it's real versus the profit model. Anyways, so that's working with Prometheus data, working with time series data. There's some code out there where we work with that stuff. Applying that to OpenShift deployments, Openshift, this Kubernetes container orchestrator, is producing 1,000 plus time series. So what we wanted to do is gate a release of Openshift if we see some strange behaviors, because we looked at all the time series. Maybe we could give back a signal that you better hold off your release and investigate stuff. Never really got implemented, but we worked and strengthened our relationship with the Openshift team. Log anomaly detection. Same, right? So one of the pillars of info, of data that you would receive from operating in a certain environment, you get metrics, you get logs. Obvious thing that you want to do is maybe predict anomalies in your log so that you don't have to watch your log stream all the time, or that if you have a problem, you will be pointed right to the problem in the log files so that you don't have to skim through all the logs. Again, we prototyped something, we created some dashboards. That project also never really took off, but we now know how to approach this problem and can incorporate that in the later projects that we're currently doing. And here's something that Karen did with the Ceph community, and it was started actually also as an intern project where we wanted to predict time series. No, where we wanted to predict failures in drives, in hard drives that are being monitored by a Ceph cluster. That's this storage thing. And that went actually so far that we could replace a proprietary machine learning model with an open source model based on that data. We're still in the conversations with the Ceph team to publish an actual open data set on the Ceph data, but we're getting there. So that's good. So where would all these experiments ultimately hopefully land if we're looking at it from the perspective of Open Data Hub? These hopefully end up in this concept of an operator, right? An operator is something where we codify the operational excellence of somebody doing stuff at the keyboard. So that's where those 40% of workforce reduction ultimately might go, right? Somebody still needs to do all that stuff, and that stuff will be done by machines, by bots, by operators. So an operator is the concept of some software doing AIOps operational tasks, and we slice that into 5 phases, similar to that of a car, where you install something, where you upgrade something, where you cater the full life cycle of something, where you have deep insights on alerts and logs and other stuff. And then at the latest phase, you have an operator that completely manages your deployment, that will auto heal, and that would do all the stuff that you would usually do as a person to operate stuff. So that's the actual artifact that we strive to produce at some time. Are we there yet? No. Will we get there? Hopefully. When? After your summer internship, hopefully. So, reiterate, AIOps is culture. It's not a product that we're developing. The AIOps team is not a team that produces AIOps tools, but I think it's the melting pot of data scientists and software engineers that work on operational problems, be it metrics, be it logs, be it also like this overlap with what Christoph will talk about, which is more on the developer part. But I think it's also in that way. And whenever we have machines and humans creating data, and we use AI tooling to work with that data, I think it's some form of AI ops. Yeah. Let's do it in a community. That's a slide from a business presentation. your own data as the competitive differentiator. That's why you should send us your money. I think that's it. 2 minutes left for questions, just in time.
Does anyone have any questions? I thought, Marcel, you're going to quiz them.
Yeah. What's AIOps? What's the correct definition of AIOps? Let's go back to it. Everybody has to learn that and print it out and put it under your sleeping pillow so that you remember this exact train of words here. Yeah. No, I don't have quizzes for you guys. But I think I hope that I brought that notion across so that you get AIOps is about using AI and using machine learning to solve hopefully mundane tasks. And you will be surprised that a lot of the stuff that we're solving is actually regex on hyperspeed. And it might be that your typical linear regression might solve a problem, or so it's not all deep learning. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. I am gonna stop the recording so that we can have a new one for Christoph's presentation.